What's going on, everybody? Welcome to season 6, episode 6 of the Focus TV. We're joined tonight. We have Octavian Wyatt, we got Raymond Lyons, Wilson Tarpe Jr. There's a lot to get through. Obviously, NFL playoffs. You guys been under a rock. You still should have found out what happened. Some people got lost in terms of topics and discussions. I can only imagine what the takes shows were like this morning. Some people are, they're coping kind of hard with the results of some of these games. Other people are taking performances and turning people into Hall of Famers after one weekend. A lot of stuff's happening. But Octavia's going to walk you through all of it. The Wizards have been busy. The reigning champs visited the nation's capital. They were out and about today on the White House grounds, a place they've become kind of familiar with. Ray's going to tell you guys what happened between the reigning champs and the Wizards. Recently, if you missed Wizards Outlook, he'll fill you in on that. We got GW basketball, GW men's basketball updates, male and women's basketball updates. Then obviously, rapid fire. We'll see what we have. But Octavian, the floor is yours.
Yes. So you're definitely spot on when you said I can only imagine what the take shows are like this morning. It was annoying. Just know, it was terrible. But yeah, so the NFL playoffs, wild card. Well, I guess they call it Super Wild Card Weekend now. I don't know where the Super came from, but whatever. Wild Card Weekend took place this past weekend. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. I might be tripping. I'm sorry, I can't think of everything. Yeah, no, 6 games. I missed one. Okay, so we had 6 games this past weekend. And 2 of the games did feature NFTs, components, players, organizations. So I'm not going to go too deep into everything. Like I'm not going to stats, stuff like that, because it'll take too long. I'm just going to give you kind of an overview of everything. So the number 6 seeded Giants defeated the number 2 seeded Vikings. They defeated them 31-24. What was kind of crazy is this was probably the one game that everybody was pretty much on the same side, and it wasn't the side of the lower seed. I mean, of the higher seed, excuse me, as far as you want to say higher as far as 2 versus 6. Everybody was on the Giants. The Giants and the Vikings just played not that long ago, and a lot of people just thought that the Vikings weren't that good. They've said that a lot this year. They've won a lot of one-score games this year, so a lot of people didn't really think that they'd be able to really substantiate, how well they played into the playoffs. So what everybody thought happened is what happened. It was the Giants' first playoff win in 11 years since their Super Bowl run. So it's a big feat for them. Definitely coming from where they came from. Daniel Jones he passed for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 78 yards in his first career playoff game against the Giants. For the Giants, like I said, they defeated them 31-24, which also gives the Vikings their first loss in 12 one-score games. Like I said, they won a lot of one-score games this year. They weren't able to do it this time. Saquon Barkley also rushed for 2 scores, including the tiebreaker midway through the 4th quarter. Jones actually became the first quarterback in NFL history to hit the thresholds in a postseason game of 300-plus yards passing, 2+ passing touchdowns, and 70+ yards in rushing. I guess everybody's calling him Vanilla Vic now. Again, I think that was a thing back when he did okay in another game. I mean, I'll be honest, it's probably the best I've ever seen him run, to be completely honest. I've never thought that he wasn't athletic. He was definitely athletic. I just think he was kind of clumsy too. I know we've all remember that one time the Turf Monster got him and he just kind of fell out of nowhere. So I think he has his moments. But I definitely think, as much as we talk about players and player development, the one thing you always have to go back to is coaching. To think that Joe Judge had him for however many seasons he was there and was not able to get an inkling of this potential out of Daniel Jones, and Brian Daboll comes in one season and is able to maximize it to the point where they now are probably going to pick up his 5th-year option and re-sign him to not let him be a free agent this summer. What's also crazy is to think that look at the change in Daniel Jones when he gets Brian Daboll and loses Joe Judge. And look at the change in Mac Jones, who acquires Joe Judge. It's just kind of crazy. Like, I feel like Mac Jones probably regressed a little bit. with Daniel Jones going a little bit further. So maybe Judge should just leave the Joneses alone. It's just not a good look for him. Maybe he should just stop coaching offense. That's probably what he should do. But again, the Giants, they converted 7 of their 13 third downs. And I mean, they just annihilated the Vikings defense. I definitely thought the defense would do a little bit better. And then Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins things. I'm waiting to see how long it takes for Justin Jefferson to request a trade. We all know what Stephon Diggs is like, I got to get up out of here. I feel like Justin Jefferson is going to follow suit. There's no way that you're down to the last play of the game. It was 4th and 8. Any other time, in any other games this season, you throw up the ball to Justin Jefferson, no matter how many people are draped all on him, and you give him a chance to go up and make the play. You pass a check down for 3 yards to TJ Hawkinson, who granted had a really good game because Justin Jefferson was pretty much taken care of for most of the game. Adoree Jackson came back in this game, and they had a safety over Justin pretty much the whole game. But I mean, it's the last game of the season if you don't get it. So it's just kind of crazy that's what they decided to do. I just can't fathom that that's what Kevin O'Connell called, because I think Kevin O'Connell's a pretty good coach. I just got to feel like Kirk Cousins just was like, just here you go. So that game's over with. The Vikings will no longer be in the NFC playoffs, wasn't in the NFL playoffs this year. The Giants will be moving forward. They will be playing against my Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get into that. But then the second NFC East game that took place, the number 5 Cowboys, I can say annihilated the number 4 Bucks. I was going to say beat, but it was pretty bad. It's always funny to me. My dad and my brother are Cowboys fans, and my dad was like, "Your brother's coming over to watch the game." I'm like, "Oh God, I'm not gonna deal with 2 of y'all at once." I mean, I don't know if you want to say that this was Prescott's best game ever, because you have to go back and look at a lot of the tapes. But it's dang near one of them. It's probably the best I've seen him play, at least this season as well. He played his best games. He threw for 4 touchdowns and running for another. Like I said, they defeated the Buccaneers 31-14, and it just wasn't even close at all. I mean, 31-14 sounds close. It's not the way that this happened. Prescott completed 25 of 33 passes for 305 yards. The key in this game also, no turnovers. I know that's the one thing they've been talking about a lot with Dak lately. I think he had like 4 or 5 straight games with an interception and some pick sixes. He did not do that on Monday night. He was able to protect the ball, and you can see that it led to a good outcome for them. And it was the first time in 8 games. That's what it was. So it was the first time he didn't have any interceptions in 8 games. So that's a lot. And I mean, we knew that this is what should have happened, I think. So I think that's why a lot of people aren't really surprised. This is what was supposed to happen. Yes, the Bucs beat the Cowboys early in the season, but we know that this is 2 totally different teams on both sides. And I mean, Tom Brady looks like he's 45. I mean, he is. I mean, he looks 45. He's playing like he's 45. He was terrified. And when I say terrified, I mean, if somebody got in with him, I felt like 5 yards of him, he was throwing the ball into the ground. He was like, "Y'all not hitting me. Nope. Not having it." He looked terrified. And I think they only sacked him twice, which is kind of crazy to see how terrified he was of getting hurt or getting hit. I won't say hurt, but getting hit. It was just bad. I mean, he threw a red zone interception, and I mean, the Cowboys just annihilated them. It was really not much to say. I mean, it is Dallas did beat Brady for the first time in 7 times. Brady was 7-0 against them in his career. And the Cowboys won in the postseason on the road for the first time in 13 years. I mean, like, I was 4. 30 years. I was probably 3 at the beginning of the year. So that was a long drought. I mean, even leading up to the game, they kept showing the last time that they played. I think they said Tom Brady was in high school the last time the Cowboys won a playoff game. So hats off to them. I mean, that's the one thing that really get the monkey off your back. And I know how that feels being an Eagles fan, had never won a Super Bowl. And that's all everybody kept talking about all the time. Well, y'all never won a Super Bowl. And that's what everybody keeps talking about with the Dallas Cowboys. I never haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. Haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. So now that they've gotten over that hump, we'll see how it turns out for them going forward. They will be playing against the San Francisco 49ers next week. That will be an interesting game. Just because I just think it's just going to be an interesting game just because. Just to kind of go over a couple of the other games that happened this weekend. Like I said, those are the two for the NFC East because the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a bye. The number 7 Seahawks were defeated by the number 2 49ers. Defeated them 41-23. The number 4 Jaguars defeated the number 5 Chargers 31-30. The number 2 Bills defeated the Dolphins 34-31. And the number 3 Bengals defeated the number 6 Ravens 24-17. I mean, for just a kind of couple points with each one, the Seahawks and the 49ers, I mean, I think we all figured that that's how it was going to go, to be completely honest. The Seahawks tried to hold in there a little bit in the beginning. And honestly, Brock Purdy, being a third-string quarterback, whatever you want to call it, he had those kind of rookie situations a little bit during the game. But their team was just too good around him. Like, it's just this. It's just good. I mean, he's doing what he needs to do. He's not playing outside of himself. He's not trying to do too much like we see some quarterbacks do, especially with a rookie when this is their first time. First time playing in the NFL as a rookie, of course, and then you're in the playoffs your first year when you probably didn't think you'd had any chance of even touching the field this year. So I think considering he's doing a really good job, but was not surprised by that outcome. Jaguars and the Chargers. Doug Peterson's a great coach. I've said it ever since he was the Philadelphia coach, and I was sad when he left. It just seemed like at that point, the front office for the Philadelphia Eagles were more invested into Carson Wentz than they were into Doug Peterson, so that's why they opted to let Peterson go. Hindsight's 2020. Granted, I like the coach Nick Sirianni now, but Doug Peterson's a great coach. To go into Jacksonville doing, they've had back-to-back number 1 picks in the last 2 years, and to win their division the first year that he gets there after the whole Urban Meyer debacle from last year as well, to win the division in their first year and to win a playoff game after being down 27-0 against the Chargers. I mean, it's just masterful. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in the first, I think he threw 3 in the first quarter, 4 in the first half. I was almost about to turn the TV off. I was like, okay, this is how wild card weekend is starting. This is not wild. This is mild at most. But that's why coaching is so important. Halftime adjustments, keeping your number 1. I think somebody said like keeping your starting, quarterback in the game. I'm like, who are y'all going to take out for him? I don't care if he threw 40 interceptions. Nobody was coming in for Trevor Lawrence, but okay. But to still get him composed, in his first postseason action, I mean, what can you do? The Chargers blew a 27-point lead. This comeback for Jacksonville is the only other postseason comeback outside of one other from Buffalo, from 32 points against Houston and Indianapolis again on January 4th. So this is only the second comeback in the postseason of that magnitude, of that many points, that Jacksonville was able to overcome. I mean, it was just masterful. Granted, it was a great comeback for the Chargers. It was a massive collapse for the Chargers. I mean, I know everybody's talking about Brandon Staley and what they're going to do with him. Doesn't look like he's going to get let go. They did fire the offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. Just some questionable decisions. Mike Williams played last week when he didn't really need to. Fractured his back. And wasn't able to play this week. I would assume if he played, maybe there would have been a little bit more offense in the game. I don't know why they didn't run the ball more. They only had 23 rushes in the game. You're up 27-0. Should probably start trying to run the clock out a little bit. But hindsight's 2020 again, so they are out. And the Jaguars are in. Bills defeated the Dolphins. Josh Allen just loves turning the ball over recently. I don't know what's going on with him. He had 3 turnovers. I think he had 2 interceptions and a fumble. But with all of that, they were still able to win the game, mostly because the Dolphins are playing with their third string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. And you can tell he just does not have that rapport with the wide receivers. At the same time, I've never seen Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle all season drop as many balls as they did in that game. The game to me would have been a lot different if they caught a lot of those balls. A lot of them were good balls that just went through their hands. So that's why I said maybe it's just the rapport between them and Skylar Thompson could have been an issue. But they were in that game. I mean, the Bills could have gave that game away. Like I said, the three turnovers for Josh Allen, and just as bad as the rapport was between the quarterback and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they still were able to kind of keep it a little bit interesting. They took the lead in a lot of during the game as well, so it was definitely close. But I just think that the Bills are just a better team. Had to have been playing, we may have had a different outcome. We know that they beat them already this year, and they played them well in the second game in Buffalo as well. So it could have been different, but the Bills do escape. And lastly, the Bengals defeated the Ravens. Another game where I think a lot of us thought that the Bengals would run away with it, to be honest, because there's no Lamar Jackson. But the Ravens were actually really in the game. The turning point of the game, I think it was 3rd and 1, and Charlie Huntley went to do a quarterback sneak, and he went over the pile. Ball got lost, and Sam Hubbard, the defensive end for the Bengals, recovered the ball and ran for 98 yards for a touchdown. They were both tied at that point. The Ravens would have gone up had they made it, and I just think that was the biggest turnaround for the game. John Harbaugh did say that wasn't the plan, that Huntley was supposed to go low, but somebody who doesn't play a lot sometimes doesn't have a lot of awareness when it comes down to situations like that, especially on the goal line. It could be said that they could have given the ball to J.K. Dobbins, who was having a pretty decent game as well. But third time, hindsight's 2020. I definitely think had Lamar Jackson played, it definitely another thing could have been a different story in this situation as well. But didn't happen. They swept them. I think they beat them all 3 games this year. So now the Ravens are into the offseason talking about everything outside of football. So we'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson and his contract. So Super Wildcard Weekend is finished. Next week, we'll have the divisional round. You'll have the Jaguars, who will face the number 1 Chiefs at 4:30 on Saturday. And then after that, you'll have the Giants, who will be against the Eagles at 8:15 that Saturday. And then Sunday, you'll have the Bengals at the Bills, 3 o'clock, which will be really just their second game of the year. Well, it'll be the home game of the year, excuse me. We know the situation that happened Monday night when they supposed to play against each other. So for it to be in Buffalo this time, it's going to be a little bit different. I think they aren't doing the neutral site. I don't even know what the whole parameters were about the neutral site, but I don't think it's a thing anymore. And then following that, it'll be the Cowboys at the 49ers. If I had to just go off the top of my head, I'm saying Chiefs. I want to say Bills, but if Josh Allen played like he played again, it's going to be a long night for him. The Bengals are not the Ravens, to be real. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Cowboys, 49ers. I mean, honestly, it should be the 49ers, just how great their defense is. But if the Cowboys offense plays as well as they played this last game, it's going to be interesting. So I like the fact that that's finishing up the weekend, because I think that's going to be the best, most competitive game this week. But it's going to be interesting. And last thing I'll say, I need everybody to calm down about the Giants. Yes, this is the first time I think they said in I don't even know how many years that 3 teams from the same division made the divisional round. Not just the East, but any division. There's never been a time where all 3 teams have made the divisional round. So it's great for the NFC East, but I need y'all to pump your brakes a little bit. The Giants defeated the Vikings. Let's keep it a buck. Daniel Jones, I guess Vanilla Vic is the thing now, but pump our brakes a little bit. I'm not overlooking my opponents because the whole thing comes up. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. I don't want to hear all that nonsense. So I expect for it to be some games this week.
Yeah, definitely should be some fun games. I think a lot of people are looking forward to it and look forward to what you have to say next week. We check back in. That's it, Ray. Wizards.
Yeah, they played the Warriors yesterday. They fell to 18-26. They lost 127 to 118. Yeah, man. We talked about it on Outlook. They got into a gunfight and were and didn't have the proper artillery. Um, you know, it all comes with them. It all comes back down to discipline, decision making, shot selection, and defense. And we saw Golden State get manhandled by Vucevic on Sunday when they played the Bulls. And they seemingly had the Bulls seemingly gave the blueprint to beat them. And on the first half, the Wizards were following that blueprint. Porzingis was killing the Warriors inside. So that should give you kind of a glimpse as to the state of the Warriors' interior defense, because when is the last time we saw Porzingis kill anybody inside? He's often hesitant to even go down there. So the fact that he was willingly in the paint should tell you something. But for some reason in the second half, they completely went away from that. And and as you can predict, the game went the Warriors' way. Neither team really played much defense until the last few minutes when, Draymond Green, man, he put his hands all over that game in the last few minutes. He seemingly made every single play, whether it was scoring, making a defensive play, getting an assist. He was everywhere, man. It was crazy to watch. So I mean that's just championship DNA. When you leave it up to chance, when you kind of let a team hang around when they're not playing well, a team with their experience is going to catch up to you. So that's basically what happened, man. And the Wizards, the frustrating thing about them is they've shown that they're capable of playing basketball. They just refuse to do so. And that's why their record is the way it is, man. They're inconsistent. They're void of leadership. Doesn't seem to be much accountability. So guys up there just being left to their own devices, and we're seeing the results. So, they play tomorrow. Who they're on the road, I believe.
New York, taking on the Knicks.
Yeah, they're playing the Knicks tomorrow. And then they're back home Saturday, against the Magic. So, hopefully they can get some wins, but who knows with them? They refuse to to take control of games and just allow things to happen. So we'll see, man. Hopefully we got better news next week.
You said it's completely up to them, isn't it? Completely, solely up to them. We're gonna take our first break tonight. This means it's on the first Focus TV when we get back. Some college basketball. Again, you're watching the Focus TV. Welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, our college basketball segments. In Cardell's absence, I'll fill you guys in on what George Washington men's basketball has been up to. The Colonials moved to 3-2 in the A-10 with the 78-75 win over George Mason on Monday afternoon. George Washington had built a 10-point lead with just under 3 minutes left. That sounds like you're in a good place. Nice, comfortable win in that moment. And then George Mason responded with a strong push. A 9-0 run made things a little bit interesting. Down the stretch, the Colonials' lead had shrunk to just 2 with a minute left. Defense. Ray just finished talking about the Wizards. We talk about that end of the floor quite a bit for many different reasons. However, going to give credit to the Colonials for locking up. That's what makes the college game just interesting, because you never know how teams are going to react. 2 teams making runs. We know how the pros should react. But, they're kids. We don't know how they're going to act, even if you're at home. To see a 10-point, double-digit lead shrunk to, just gone with a minute left, you're at home, but that's pressure on you. You were just up by 10. That said, they locked in on the defensive end. They forced 4 misses over George Mason's final 3 possessions to hang on for the 3-point win. 4 players scored in double figures for the Buff and Blue. Yeah, Brendan Adams led the way with 22 points and 8 boards. He also shot it well from beyond the arc, going 5 of 8. James Bishop finished with 19 points and 8 assists. The 8 assists was one shy of his career high in terms of helpers. Maximus Edwards had 14 points and 6 rebounds, while Mr. Do-It-All, Ricky Lindo Jr. had 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. The Colonials became just the 3rd team in the A10 to win 2 road games. You know, Cardell's been talking for years about how tough the A10 is. I'm going to say that one more time. They're only the 3rd team in the conference to win 2 road games. So it's tough to win on the road in this conference. In some conferences, you know, depending on who you are, where you play, you just chalk those up as dubs. You know, playing in some folks' arenas, that's just your other arena. You got 2. Some teams got 3 or more in their conferences. We're going to leave that alone. No names named. We're going to keep that moving. But in terms of what's up next for the Colonials, they got 2 big matchups. The first we're gonna speak on. Well, the only one we'll mention, the first of the 2. They're gonna host Dayton on Saturday at the Smith Center at 12:30 p.m. As for Maryland's women's basketball, the Terps had 2 bouts last week. The first on the road against 6th-ranked Indiana, so it was a battle between 6 and 9. At that point, Maryland went into that game ranked 9th in the nation. Maryland, you know, a slow start. That's the thing with Maryland this year. Like, honestly, they get off to a slow start. It's just how much of a hole did they dig themselves into? Say that 3 times fast because I will struggle. And can they get out of said hole, right? But it's the start. And this was one of those games where they started slow, and Indiana did what they needed to do. They had full command of that game. However, the Terps made a push to get back into the game. They would tie it at 50 with 6 minutes and 12 seconds left, but Indiana is ranked 6th in the country for a reason. They responded with a 9-0 run to extinguish any hopes of a Terps comeback. We've seen the Terps do that this year on the road, come up with big wins on the road in non-conference scenarios. Diamond Miller scored 17 of her 19 points in the second half. So we're talking about slow starts. We know what she brings to the table, but 17 of the 19 came in the second half. If you evenly distribute that just a little bit, you know, maybe it's a different game. You're like, and I know it's tough for her because she's getting the lion's share of attention from opposing teams. That said, that's what comes with being the number 1 person on opposing team scouting report. That's just par for the course. You want to play at the next level, this is part of it. Brene Alexander continued her consistent production off the bench with 15 points. It's been cool to see some of these transfers. Not all transfers in this transfer crazy time hit the ground running with their new teams. Some players take a little bit before they get really comfortable in their role and whatnot, but it's cool to see Brene little by little becoming more and more consistent for them off their bench. And she will probably turn out to be a pivotal piece for their team going forward because of that production, especially where she does it from, most of which comes from beyond the arc. Maryland would respond accordingly Sunday when they hosted Rutgers. This time it wasn't a slow start thanks to their defense. They forced 17 turnovers in the first half. You know their mantra: defend, rebound, and run. In that order, if you do those things, you're able to run. They got turnovers. And, you know, Maryland has no issue putting points on the scoreboard when they're able to get out and run with all the athletes that they do have. In terms of their defense, I'm talking about the 17 forced turnovers. Rutgers made just 9 field goals in the first half. 9 made field goals in 20 minutes of play. That's good defense, which we know they're capable of. 9 is a bit much. It's not something you can expect each and every game. However, hell of a job defensively. A good start again. For the game, the Terps scored 19 points off 23 Scarlet Knight turnovers. Brene Alexander scored 14 of her season-high 20 points in the second half, including 6 triples. Diamond Miller finished with 17 points, 6 boards, and 5 steals, which she's hit the 5-steal mark several times in her career. I think at least twice this season. Abby Myers finished with 14 points, while Cheyenne Sellers scored 12 points, pulled down 9 boards, and had 7 assists. Alexander became the latest Terp to eclipse the 1,000 career point mark So congrats to her. There've been several players this year who've hit that mark. Up next, Maryland has 2 road games this week. They've been busy this month. They got Wisconsin on Thursday and Nebraska on Sunday. So it's that opportunity to possibly get back-to-back conference wins, which goes a long way later in the season. And obviously, down the road for that almighty NCAA resume when, selection Sunday and Monday comes. Because, those littlest things matter. So, those big wins you had in the non-conference, they mean nothing or little to nothing if you go through conference play and you end up 500. That's the reality. We've all been around the sport long enough. We know how that goes. Going to take our second break. When we get back, a little bit of DC United news because I still can't wrap my mind around this. It's preseason in the MLS, man. Oh, they've been going for like 2 months. 2 months. Their off season, I swear, is the shortest thing in the world. That said, you're watching the Focus TV. Welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, little DC United news. They've been a little busy. Again, preseason, training camp. They'll be going south very soon because it's cold up here and they're not about to be in this weather. I envy them. I wish I could go because these temperatures stink. Sick of this 40-degree weather. I do not like it at all. Again, preseason begun in MLS. Wayne Rooney addressed the media this past week. So I'll keep you guys updated on their preseason as things go along. The Black and Red announced and introduced Polish Central midfielder. I'm going to mess up your name, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to get it down. Like, by the first game of the season, I'm going to have it down. But Mateusz Klich. He's coming over from Leeds United in the English Premier League. It's on a 2-year contract through 2024 with a club option in 2025. Coach Wayne Rooney had this to say. Mateusz is a first-rate midfielder who will add top-level experience to our roster. I've been watching him since he helped lead Leeds to promotion to the Premier League, and his vision, range of passing, and scoring ability will be a huge asset for us this season. The 32-year-old will be tasked with taking control of the middle of the park and doing what he does best, being the link or connector in the midfield to help generate and facilitate the attack for players like Taxi Fautas and Christian Benteke. I personally definitely look forward to seeing how he transforms this group. You're getting a veteran player from the EPL. We know Benteke spent time overseas, and I know he's 32 years old. However, they know how to play. And this is one of those things we talked about last year all the time. These United would get scoring opportunities. They wouldn't capitalize on them. It's akin to having – we could talk – I don't want to keep talking about the Wizards, but it's akin to when you build a team. And you have a bunch of scorers, and there's no facilitator. And you leave scorers up to their own vices. All scorers aren't facilitators. All facilitators aren't scorers. But if you have a true facilitator, it can help make life so much easier for good forwards. It's going to help the back end and the attack. So I'm looking forward to see what he does for this group. One of the things he talks about is he's just there. He's not someone, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, he was like, I'm not someone who needs to dribble a bunch. I'm here to connect things for folks, to make things easier for my teammates. Lord, they need that. They need that bad. Again, coming from the bottom of the league, they're spending some money. We got to see where it goes. But again, I'm not mad at the type of high-priced folks they brought in, especially we consider DC United, we've seen, while Wayne's been here and then before him, the coach before him, they play a lot of youngsters. Think about if you're a youngster. You can pick his brain just being around him, being around Wayne, being around Christian, Taxi. Do you know the type of things you can learn just from being on the field with them and training, film, things of that nature? It could go a long way. Again, just a quick little update. But on to rapid fire. I'm going to try to do my part here. I don't know how I'll do, but, I hate filling in for this part because these questions are really good. Mine, we just get some things that I feel like every time I have to take over, it's dry from a topic standpoint. I feel like every single time it's dry. Any other week, there's stuff happening up until the minute we start the show. So once again, I feel some type of way. And y'all can attest to this. Has it not been a dry day so far in sport of like take-ish type activities? Yeah, it's okay. We can say
it. For the most part.
We can talk about it. It's usually some like inflammatory type things going on a weekly basis. I got a feeling for rapid fire. And it's like, next week, tomorrow. But we'll start here. You guys, everyone's favorite quarterback. Y'all thought I would start with Tom Brady, huh? He's at it again. Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show recently has said, I think I can win MVP again in the right situation. Right situation. Is that Green Bay or is that somewhere else? I'm not sure, but I don't think you should shut down any opportunity. Like I said during the season, that's got to be both sides actually wanting to work together moving forward. And I think there's more conversations to be had. End quote. Mr. Rodgers then added, there's a lot of interesting names that we'll see if there's a desire to re-sign certain guys that are glue guys in the locker room, and that will be an interesting conversation to be had. Take all that away, I still need to mentally get to a point where I feel 100% locked in and ready to play a 19th season. And if I do, then we'll rock and roll and figure that out. If I don't, then we'll go into the jungles for a while. Thoughts on the 39-year-old signal caller's comments? Octavia.
I'm tired already, and we haven't even started the off season. Like, does he have to do this every year? Like every year. Like, the one thing I want to say is I no longer care. Like, I just don't care. Stay, leave, go to the jungle, drink ayahuasca plants, whatever it is. Just make a decision. Like, or I would rather don't talk about it until you make a decision. Like, I don't need to hear that you're weighing all your options. We know that. You say that every year. So and if $60 million isn't enough to stay, then don't stay. Because if that was the case, you got signed. You'll make $60 million next year. And honestly, the reason that I won't say the sole reason the team probably didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve was because of him. But he was a big factor of the reason they didn't achieve the things they wanted to achieve. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about the wide receiver connection and everything. I honestly think that was a big thing. Now, granted, both of them, Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, wasn't able to stay fully healthy this year. But I think that the times that they were healthy, like early in the season, when they weren't having that good chemistry, I think that could have been eradicated. I mean, had Aaron Rodgers made a decision earlier, so it's like every season we're in this loop every year where it's like, I can't get out of it because he won't stop talking. He won't stop going on Pat McAfee. He won't just make a decision. So like, I really just want him to stop talking about it until he makes a decision. Like I honestly don't care. I don't know where he would go. Because there's been so many talks about a bunch of people either moving around or retiring or whatnot. We know Derek Carr leaving, lost. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff going on. And I'm sure, he's weighing his options, but win another MVP? Yeah, sure, I guess. If you can throw the ball to your wide receivers when they're open, that would be a thing. And I mean, like, I don't put it past him because Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, definitely is, but he's getting older and he's starting to look. He don't look as frightened as Tom Brady, but he definitely looks a little concerned at times. And I mean, his offensive line wasn't that great this year. Maybe Bakhtiari actually plays a full season next year. But I'm sure that a lot of people are like, the thing that like bothers me the most about it is that there's so many other decisions that need to be made for the team. And a lot of it is predicated on what he decides to do, so it's like, I need you to make your decision. So then that way everybody else can do what's best for them and the team going forward based off of you. Because I mean, like, you're the biggest cap hit. Like 60 million ain't nothing to sneeze at. So they need to know what they're doing too. So I just hate that he holds them hostage every year and he has the same melodramatic storyline. I just really want it to be over. Like, I will be fine if I never talked about Aaron Rodgers again until he decides if he's playing next year. Because at this point, you guys aren't playing anymore. You lost. Didn't make it to the postseason. I'm only worried about teams that are in the postseason. Holler at me when you make a decision, sir.
All right, Larry.
Yeah, I've been over him, man. Dude, he just wants some attention. Yeah, and if I was Green Bay, and I don't know what the situation is, but if I was able to make the decision for him, I would make it very quickly. Um, we appreciate what you've done, but your services are no longer required. Because I mean, yeah, it's time to move on, man. Yeah, I don't envy anybody that has to deal with him on a consistent basis. So yeah, maybe he can go off and be on Pat McAfee every day. Because I don't watch that, so I'll never hear from him again, and that would be tremendous for all of us. But yeah, this is like what, the third or fourth year in a row he's done this. Like, just shut up until you have something concrete to talk about.
From one old quarterback to another.
Like, your love has to deal with this every year too, and he ain't even sniffed it. Like, he probably like, sir, make up your mind. like, let me go. Let me out of these hostages. These hostage chains. Like, let me go.
All right, on to the other aging quarterback who look, man, the Bucks lost to the Cowboys in a rather emphatic fashion Monday night in the super wild card round. Folks are already writing about where Tom Brady's gonna go next. Then the other group of folks are, playing the blame game already. They're blaming Todd Bowles, head coach Todd Bowles, offense coordinator Byron Leftwich, everyone but Tom the player. Should Tom play next year? And if so, where? Right.
Yeah, come back, dude, and stink it up again. He deserves everything bad that happens from this point on. You had the storybook ending, won a Super Bowl, go ahead and ride off into the sunset. There's literally nothing else to play for. But for some reason, he wanted to come back, and now you have no family, a losing season, and you got thrashed in the playoffs. You deserve every bit of that because you shouldn't even be here. So yeah, come back. Yeah, come back. And you're clearly deteriorating. So yeah, just glutton for punishment. Come back, man. It's nobody at home waiting for you anyway. Come back.
Octavia, you're up next.
You said, who do I think that Tom Brady should play for next year? He should play for Fox Channel 5. That's exactly who he should play for. He signed a 10-year deal with Fox Sports for $375 million. That's who he need to play for next year. Let it go. Like you said, like, what else is there to play for? You won the Super Bowl 7 times. 7. Like, what does he need 3 more so he has one for every finger? Like, I don't understand it. You're terrified. Like I said, like watching the game last night, like he was terrified to get hit. And I don't know why you think your bones are not going to be more terrified next year when you're a whole nother year older. So I do not understand it. Like you said, you lost your wife, your kids to have an 8-9 season and get annihilated in wild card weekend as the home seed, number 4 seed. And you didn't even deserve that because the NFC South was terrible. That's the only reason why you guys did. Had the Panthers played better earlier on in the season than they did later in the season, maybe. And I mean, it's I hate this really a lot for like big superstars in their sports. Like, I hate it because I know nobody really likes to say it tarnishes their legacy or anything like that. But it's just like, I don't want that to be the last thing I see. And right now, I don't want that to be the last thing I see, but right now, I want that to be the last thing I see because I feel like it's going to get worse. What I saw last night, please let that be the last thing I see. I understand it. Your offensive line was jacked up all year. I think Ryan Jensen came back for what? I don't know. Like, okay, sir, it didn't change anything. So you waited all season to do that too. Like, just and the whole blame game, I don't agree with, because even if that's the situation, it's one bad year that they've had. You know, to hear the reports of saying that there's a possibility that Byron Leftwich could be fired, I think it's preposterous. Like, what? Like, how do you not give him leeway from one bad season when there's been a change in head coaching? You know, so I just, and we all saw what the offense was doing. It wasn't just him. I mean, playoff Lenny, I don't know where he went to. I think he's gonna be a free agent too. He better hope somebody want him. So there's a lot of blame to go all the way around, but Tom Brady should play for Fox Sports Network next year. And I mean, if he don't want to go through the drop-off line, he could hire somebody to go to the drop-off line and pick up his kids. If you don't want to do that, he ain't got to. You a gajillionaire. Yeah, please just don't come back. But there's been many rumors, of course. I think the biggest rumor that I've heard, or to me, the one that sounds the most likely, if he does for whatever reason come back and he doesn't stay in Tampa Bay, I can understand the Las Vegas situation. It's familiarity, and they have good weapons. And it just seems like their quarterback play was always not the, greatest. But I mean, still, watching what you watched last night, do you think Tom Brady's going to be any better than Derek Carr next year? I mean, it's Tom Brady, so I understand it, but he looked old. He looks scared. He looked like he needed to be in a booth with a suit on. So that's where he should be.
Hey, man, I agree on all accounts. It's time to go get your Romo on. Tell us all the plays before it happened, because clearly as it's happening.
I didn't like him when he was a quarterback, but he's good now.
Man, he's great in the booth.
Oh, God, he's amazing.
Outstanding. Yeah, Tom was out there trying to slide tackle people last night. It's right.
He was scared for his life. He was terrified. When I saw him literally throw the ball into the ground, I was like, oh, yeah, no. He don't want no smoke at all. Any attempt. Like, he don't want no smoke. He was like, nah, they too close.
All right. This might be the last one. The Phoenix Suns are currently 12th in the Western Conference. Feels like it's not being discussed, talked about, highlighted nearly enough. So I'm going to do it. That said, they're in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games. So I'm going to ask you guys, what's going on with the Suns, and big button or no button for them? Are they buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? Ray will start with you and Octavia.
Man, to be perfectly honest, I think their issues started last year when they didn't take care of business with Aiden, because they came into the season with funky energy, and I mean, they're talented, so they were winning games at a point, but injuries started to happen, and they get into the dog days of the season, and even though eventually Aiden got his money, but it's still it's a sour taste there. So yeah, man, I don't know. It definitely needs to be talked about more, because when they were doing well, it was definitely talked about. So discussions need to be had. I mean, you know what they say, Father Time is undefeated, and Chris Paul was putting up a good fight as any, but yeah, looked like Father Time catching up on that backstretch. So yeah, it's tough, man. Then with the Jay Crowder situation as well, it just seems like it's a lot of dysfunction going on over there. And they're having altercations on the sidelines with the coach, people throwing things on the court. Like that, it just seems like a mess right now, man. And yeah, they might just have to wrap it up this season, because I mean, even if you do make a trade, I mean, you could inject some new life into that situation, but yeah, it just seemed real dysfunctional over there. So yeah, man, lucky for them, it's not front page news. you know, because folks want to talk about other things. But yeah, man, it's puzzling to see because they're definitely a talented team, but you know, continuity and chemistry, man, is very fragile. And no matter how good you are, once that's broken or compromised in any way, as you can see, it can have a real drastic effect on how you perform on the court.
Look, man, I just wanted to bring it up because, when other teams had dysfunction, it was front page news and people brought up each and every little part what's going on. I'm just trying to, keep the same energy for everybody. You were in the Western Conference Finals, yada, yada, yada. Earlier this season, y'all were barking at people, being Phoenix and doing all types of outlandish things. Life comes at you fast in 12th. So let's start a dialogue. Octavia.
Yeah, you asked if they push the button. Please push the button. Because I feel like their window has already closed. They had their best opportunity when they were in the finals. I feel for Chris Paul because I honestly, even during that time, I thought that was his best opportunity to get a ring. It's too late now. And I think he slightly realizes it. Like you said, Father Time is undefeated. I feel like the only person that's defying it in an okay way right now would probably be LeBron. As far as like all aging athletes, I'm talking about old Tom Brady and old Aaron Rodgers as well. But at the same time, LeBron is doing great things too. He shouldn't have to, but that's another story. But at the same time, it's too much. And I mean, like you said, I think it's been scandal after scandal after scandal for them. For me, it's kind of concerning that Monty Williams, being the great coach that he is, can't rein it in and get everybody together or in some type of way. So to me, that also makes me feel like he's lost the locker room. Chris Paul not being there, we know he's an extension of him. I wonder how involved he is now with whatever injury he's going through now, because like you said, there's been a gajillion of them. And then, Devin Booker been injured too. I don't think he's been playing either. The only person that I can really give some praise to is Mikal Bridges. I don't think he's missed a game in like 3 years. And he's doing everything he could possibly do to scrap and claw to get them to win games. I think they did have a pretty decent win recently. I can't remember who it was against, but they played pretty well against a top tier team in the West, I believe. I can't remember for 100%, but it's literally, like I said, been scandal after scandal. The situation with DeAndre Ayton and his contract. Don't forget the situation with Robert Sarver and the sale of the team. So that was another big, huge distraction that happened as well. The Jay Crowder situation early on into the season. Like you said, I think Bismack Biyombo threw a freaking massager in the middle of the court. Like it's a SHIT show right now in Phoenix. And they're 12. We haven't hit All-Star break yet. I would be interested to see how far off it is for Devin Booker to be back, because I think he's still a top tier player and he can score a lot and do a lot, but they still got to play defense. And they still got a lot of injuries too. But if it ain't this year, like if nothing comes out of this year that's at least positive, I say start over, because I feel like they're wasting their younger talent. Like I said, I think Mikal Bridges is a great talent. And I don't even know if DeAndre really wants to be there at this point. I think he wanted to more so before they had the issue with the contract. And now he has it, but I don't know how happy he is about it. It's just a lot going on. And with all of that going on, how are y'all focusing on winning games? It's concerning, because I think Monty Williams is a great coach. But that he can't kind of get them together just makes me feel like it's a lost cause.
Hey man, that's why I just wanted to bring it up, because it was just interesting to me. They were barking like they were barking earlier this season, just like the Grizzlies were, except the Grizzlies are tied for first in the West, and you're in 12th. So, we're gonna keep tabs on things as we approach the All-Star break. Octavia's gonna check back in with you guys next week. But then Go ahead.
I really want to know you two's answer to a question I want to ask. How you guys feel about the Jonquel Jones trade? Interested to know, guys. He requested to be traded to the Liberty.
Man, she like we talk about on the NBA side, those guys that when they move, the whole league feel it. That's the equivalent. Like, and then her running pick and rolls with Sabrina, that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
And then they talking about they might get Sluty. Then they talking about they might get Brianna Stewart. Like,
all of that just does not sound fair at all.
Might be problems, and it's highly likely. So, but yeah, I mean, even just with things as they stand now, that's because they got young pieces, but adding a big joker like that, man, that puts you in a great position.
Yeah, big old easy button in New York. You know how you advance in the playoffs? You purchase the easy button. And I think it's going to help. It's not to knock Connecticut or anything. Just they were in that weird place where that front court was loaded with AT, B. Jones, and Jonquel. And as B. Jones got better, I think people talked about was like, as you keep going forward, like, it's an awkward fit for the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
The three of them couldn't stay together. So I'm not too shocked by it. It was random, that happened that day. But
yeah, that's why I was asking, because I was like, I literally just got a random message. I was like, what?
I was just shocked, like, oh, today that happened? Cool. That was it. That was what it was for me. I expected people to move. I expected her to move, honestly. But I'm more interested, like, if they land Stewie too, because I know, there's been reports last couple of years Stewie wants to
not fair.
Like, man, I don't know. I thought maybe there'd be nothing scarier than like Stewie and Asia in the front court, like for Team USA. I stand corrected. Stewie and JJ might be crazy.
Yeah, that's like having KD and KD.
Hey, here's
that's not fair.
Nah, it's not. But again, kudos to the Liberty. You want to get ahead of the league, you want to go forward, you do what you have to do. And Cardell, Ray talk about all the time, like what the league is going towards is those types of players in the front court. You got you a marquee one. Like you got one of the ones other people are trying to be like. Yeah, go enjoy your lives. Even if this is all you get, job well done. Now, if you get more, that's crazy. If you bring in Scooty somehow, that's nuts. We're just adding to like ridiculous levels of, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Like people want the W to advance, right? These types of crazy things happening in off season. Hey man, that's good news. Like it was NFL playoffs going on, middle of the NBA season, and I felt like that was enough damage to stop things for a second. It was like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, no, it really was. I was like, that's why I had to ask real quick, because I was like, wait, Jonquel Jones going to the Liberty, y'all. Oh, I can't wait for the season to start.
And we'll see what happens. It's free agency kind of like starts, starting now, starting soon rather. What happens, I'm sure we'll see things pick up little by little. But like Ray said, if that's how New York feels to start, I can't wait to see what else they're up to. That's a heck of a way to start. Like you said, big joker played. Job well done. Like, and Natasha Howard was doing well over there. It's like I want to make sure it's not like we're like trashing whoever left New York. However, levels to everything. You get your hands on. You see JJ possibly unleashing the offense with a little bit more space. Who knows what can happen? And we know the Liberty play fast as hell.
Mm-hmm.
They get up and down. So we'll see what happens. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We truly appreciate it. Octavia, appreciate that question. Shame on me for not even having that in rapid fire. I was just like, we'll do something on WNBA's free agency opens. Big dummy, clearly that just happened. This is why I'm not responsible for rapid fire. Just not responsible enough for it. Appreciate you looking out on that. But just a reminder to everybody, you guys know what it is. Focus TV can be found each and every week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. on our Roku channel. If you have a Roku television device, all you have to do is, turn it on, type in the search box, the Focus TV, double tap OK on the remote, and the channel is added. If you're a DC resident, you can watch it Friday nights at 10 p.m. or Saturday at 4:30 on your DC TV. If you're outside the area, you can still watch it on DC TV. Go to dctv.org and you can stream it there on their website. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you guys soon.